The late afternoon sun glinted off the polished hood of Ethan Blackwood's Aston Martin as it sliced through Manhattan traffic. At 35, Ethan had everything most men dreamed of: a tech empire worth $27 billion, a penthouse overlooking Central Park, and a fiancée who graced the covers of fashion magazines. Yet the furrow in his brow and the tightness in his shoulders told a different story. "Ms. Reynolds is requesting your confirmation for the gala seating arrangements, sir," his AI assistant chirped through the car's speakers. Ethan sighed. "Tell Vanessa I trust her judgment." He didn't add what he was thinking. Unlike my fiancé, who would spend 3 hours arguing about who sits where. As if summoned by his thoughts, his phone lit up with Cassandra Wellington's name. He let it ring. 3 more charity events this week, all requiring his checkbook and smile, neither of which he felt like giving. Their engagement, 6 months in, felt more like a business merger than a love story. Cassandra, with her old money connections and perfect society pedigree, had seemed like the logical choice when they'd met at a charity auction. But logic, Ethan was realizing, made for a cold bedfellow. His phone buzzed again. With a grimace, he answered, "I'm on my way to meet the Japanese investors. Can I call?" "Darling, you simply must intervene." Cassandra's voice cut like crystal. "The florist is suggesting hydrangeas for the engagement party. Hydrangeas, Ethan, as if we're hosting a garden club luncheon in New Jersey." Ethan felt something inside him snap. "Cassandra, it's flowers. Just pick what you like." "What I like is a fiancé who cares about our social standing. The Astors will be there, and The squeal of brakes interrupted her as a bicycle messenger swerved into Ethan's lane. Ethan jerked the wheel to avoid a collision, and the world spun into slow motion. The car fishtailed. A woman crossing at the corner looked up, her eyes wide. There was a sickening thud, the sound of paper and books scattering across asphalt. "Ethan? Ethan?" Cassandra's voice was tinny and distant through the phone that had fallen to the floorboard. Heart pounding, Ethan scrambled out of the car. A woman lay sprawled on the pavement, surrounded by scattered papers and a broken laptop. Her chestnut hair fanned out like a halo around her head. "Don't move," he said, kneeling beside her, already dialing 911. "Help is coming." The woman's eyes fluttered open. Hazel eyes, flecked with gold, hazed with pain, but remarkably calm. "My dissertation," she murmured, reaching for the scattered papers now dancing in the breeze. "Forget the papers," Ethan said. "Are you okay? Can you tell me your name?" Lucy Patterson." She tried to sit up, winced. "And those papers represent 3 years of my life, so no, I will not forget them." Something in her defiance, her priorities in the face of being hit by a billionaire's sports car, struck Ethan with unexpected force. "You're bleeding," he said, noticing the scrape along her temple. "Your car's not looking too great either," she countered, with a ghost of a smile that transformed her face. Sirens wailed in the distance as an older woman rushed over, gathering. "Lucy's papers. I've got them, dear. Don't you worry." "Thank you," Lucy breathed, then looked directly at Ethan. "Not exactly how I planned to meet a tech mogul." Ethan stared at her. "You know who I am?" "Your face is on the side of buses advertising your ridiculous smartwatch," she said, grimacing as she shifted. "Though I prefer the old-fashioned kind. That just tells time." Ethan found himself smiling for the first time that day. "You're criticizing my product line while lying injured on the street?" "Multitasking," Lucy replied, her voice growing fainter. "I'm very efficient." The paramedics arrived, pushing Ethan aside. As they loaded Lucy onto a stretcher, her eyes found his again. "My bag. There's a flash drive. The blue one. It's my only backup." "I'll find it," Ethan promised, already scanning the scene. "Sir, we need your statement," a police officer said, tugging at his attention. As the ambulance doors closed on Lucy Patterson, Ethan felt an unfamiliar tug in his chest. This woman, who cared more about her work than his name or money, who could joke after being hit by a car, was unlike anyone in his carefully curated world. "Sir? Your statement?" the officer repeated. But Ethan was already scrolling through his contacts for his lawyer. He'd handle the police, find Lucy's flash drive, and make sure she had the best medical care money could buy. It was the least he could do. What he didn't realize, as the ambulance pulled away, was that his orderly life had just careened off course as dramatically as his Aston Martin. And in the hospital across town, where they were taking Lucy, his fiancée Cassandra was attending a charity luncheon with her closest friend, a woman who would soon become the unwitting third point in a complicated love triangle. Ethan glanced at his phone. 5 missed calls from Cassandra. He slipped it back into his pocket unanswered and began gathering Lucy's scattered papers from the street. The antiseptic smell of hospital corridors was all too familiar to Lucy Patterson. As a doctoral candidate in oncology research, she'd spent countless hours in these fluorescent-lit hallways. She just never expected to experience them from a hospital bed. "CT scan looks clear," the attending physician said, reviewing her chart. "But I'd like to keep you overnight for observation. That was quite a hit you took." Lucy winced as she shifted against the pillows. "I can't stay. I have a presentation tomorrow for my dissertation committee." "Had," corrected a familiar voice. From the doorway. Past tense. Lucy looked up to find her best friend, Olivia Bennett, striding in with a tote bag over her shoulder. With her sleek blonde bob and impeccable Chanel suit, Olivia looked absurdly out of place among the beeping monitors and utilitarian hospital furnishings. "What do you mean, had?" Lucy asked, a cold dread settling in her stomach. Olivia pulled up a chair. "I called Professor Winters, told him about your accident. They've rescheduled for next month." "You had no right," Lucy said, her voice rising. "I've been preparing for this date for showing up with a concussion and road rash?" Olivia arched a perfectly shaped eyebrow. "Very professional." Lucy's retort was cut short by a knock at the door. A tall figure carrying an enormous arrangement of white lilies entered the room, his face partially obscured by the blooms. "Delivery for Lucy Patterson," a deep voice announced. The flowers lowered to reveal Ethan Blackwood, looking considerably more disheveled than the billionaire on magazine covers. His designer suit was rumpled, his dark hair tousled, and there was a smudge of what might have been newsprint on his cheek. "You," Lucy said flatly. "Me," Ethan agreed, setting down the flowers. "The guy who hit you with his car. Though in my defense, that bicycle messenger was definitely violating traffic laws." Lucy felt a smile tugging at her lips despite herself. "Are the flowers meant to compensate for my broken laptop and possibly delayed PhD?" "The flowers are just flowers," Ethan replied, pulling something from his jacket pocket. "This, however, might help with the dissertation crisis." He handed her a blue flash drive. Lucy's eyes widened. "You found it?" "Along with every page of your research, which I had professionally dried and organized after some of them landed in a puddle." He produced a leather portfolio from beside the door. "My assistant made backups of everything, including what was on the flash drive. It's all on this new laptop, too." He placed a sleek computer on the bedside table. "You didn't have to," Lucy began. "I really did," Ethan cut in. "Especially after your rather scathing but extremely accurate review of my company's latest smartwatch. The design team is already implementing changes based on your off-the-cuff critique." Lucy laughed, then winced at the pain it caused. "So you're saying I should invoice you for consulting fees on top of damages?" "Absolutely." Ethan's smile transformed his face, erasing the reserved businessman from the financial pages. "Though I was hoping to pay in dinner installments once." "You're recovered." The intimate moment was broken by Olivia clearing her throat loudly. Lucy started. She'd almost forgotten her friend was there. "Oh, Ethan, this is my best friend, Olivia Bennett. Liv, this is Ethan Blackwood, my vehicular assailant. Olivia's professional smile froze as she extended her hand. Ethan Blackwood? As in Cassandra Wellington's fiancé. Ethan's smile dimmed slightly. You know Cassandra? We've been friends since boarding school, Olivia said, her voice suddenly cool. In fact, I just saw her at the Children's Hospital benefit before coming. Here. An awkward silence descended on the room. Lucy looked between them, confusion evident on her face. Your fiancé, she said quietly to Ethan. Yes. He shifted uncomfortably. I should have mentioned that you're engaged to be married? Lucy's voice was carefully neutral, but her eyes had lost their warmth. Yes, that might have been worth mentioning before asking me to dinner. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. It's not... I didn't mean... Cassandra is actually on her way, Olivia said, checking her phone. She was so worried when I told her what happened. She insisted on coming straight away. Ethan's expression shifted to something unreadable. You told Cassandra about the accident? Of course, Olivia said smoothly. Why wouldn't I tell my dearest friend that her fiancé was involved in an accident? She was concerned about you. The tension in the room thickened. Lucy busied herself with examining the flash drive, avoiding Ethan's gaze. She felt foolish now for the flutter in her stomach when he'd walked in. Of course, someone like him would be engaged, probably to some gorgeous socialite who summered in the Hamptons and had never written a dissertation in her life. Lucy, Ethan said quietly. The dinner offer stands. As an apology, nothing more. Before she could respond, the door swung open again, revealing a woman who could have stepped from the pages of Vogue. Tall and willowy, with honey blonde hair cascading over shoulders so straight they might have been ruled with a level, Cassandra Wellington surveyed the hospital room with barely concealed distaste. Darling, she said, her voice like silk over steel as she air-kissed Ethan's cheek. When Olivia called, I was beside myself. Are you hurt? I'm fine, Ethan said, stepping back slightly. Lucy was the one injured. Cassandra turned, seeming to notice Lucy for the first time. Her perfect features arranged themselves into a mask of sympathy that didn't quite reach her eyes. How dreadful for you, she said. Ethan's insurance will cover everything, of course. We just need you to sign a few forms that our lawyer is drawing up. Forms? Lucy echoed. Standard liability waivers. Cassandra waved a manicured hand dismissively. Nothing to worry about. Now, Ethan, we're already late for the Crawfords. Dinner party. I've told them we'll be there by 9. Ethan's jaw tightened. I'm not going to a dinner party, Cassandra. I'm making sure Lucy has everything she needs. I've taken care of it, Cassandra said with a brittle smile. I've already spoken to the hospital administrator. Ms. Patterson will have a private room and the best care. She turned to Lucy. We'll send a car for you when you're discharged. And please don't worry about pressing charges. We understand it was an accident. Lucy blinked. I wasn't planning to press charges. Wonderful, Cassandra beamed. It's so refreshing to meet someone reasonable. The slight pause suggested this was a quality she found unusual in people of Lucy's station. Olivia stood up. I should go. Lucy needs rest. She squeezed Lucy's hand. Call me if you need anything. As Olivia passed Cassandra, they exchanged a look that Lucy couldn't interpret. There was history there, something deeper than friendship. She filed the observation away, along with the notice that Ethan hadn't once looked at Cassandra the way he had looked at Lucy when he first entered. The room? We should all go, Ethan said firmly. Lucy does need rest. He turned to her. I'll check in tomorrow, and the dinner offer remains open, as a proper apology. His eyes held hers for a beat longer than necessary. Thank you for the flowers, Lucy said, nodding toward the lilies. And for saving my dissertation. Least I could do, Ethan replied with a small smile. As they filed out, Lucy heard Cassandra's voice drift back through the closing door. Honestly, Ethan, lilies? So funereal. You should have sent roses if you were determined to be dramatic about it. Left alone, Lucy inspected the new laptop and the carefully restored pages of her research. A business card had been tucked inside the portfolio. Ethan Blackwood, CEO, Blackwood Innovations. She turned it over. On the back, written in strong, decisive handwriting. In case you need anything. Anything at all. Lucy traced the handwriting with her fingertip, then caught herself. The man was engaged, to her best friend's friend. And clearly from a world as far removed from hers as the moon from the earth. Still, as she drifted off to sleep, it wasn't Cassandra's perfect face or Olivia's concerned frown that followed her into dreams. It was the image of Ethan Blackwood, standing awkwardly in a hospital room with an armful of lilies, looking at her as if she were the only person in the world. You're not seriously considering having dinner with him, Olivia said, folding Lucy's freshly laundered clothes into a duffel bag. It had been 3 days since the accident, and Lucy was finally being discharged from the hospital. Lucy adjusted the sling supporting her sprained arm. It's just an apology dinner, Liv. With an engaged man, Olivia countered. An engaged man whose fiancé happens to be one of my oldest friends. Which you conveniently never mentioned. In all the years we've known each other, Lucy pointed out. She'd spent the past 3 days piecing together the connections. You attended the same boarding school as Cassandra Wellington, vacationed with her family in Monaco, and never once thought to mention that you're besties with New York's most infamous socialite. Olivia's movements became more precise. Cassandra and I move in different circles now. And to be perfectly frank, I didn't think she'd be relevant to your life. And now? And now her fiancé has hit you with his car and is sending you inappropriate text messages. Lucy flushed. The texts from Ethan had been frequent, but hardly inappropriate. Checking on her recovery, asking if the laptop was working properly, sending links to scientific journals related to her research. Each one felt like a small, secret connection. He's just being considerate, Lucy insisted, tucking the latest paperback he'd sent, a biography of Marie Curie, into her bag. Olivia arched an eyebrow. Cassandra mentioned he's missed 2 charity events this week, claiming he's been working late. Is hunting down out-of-print biographies for you what billionaires call work these days? Before Lucy could respond, a nurse entered. Your ride is here, Miss Patterson. My ride? Lucy looked to Olivia. Did you call a car service? Olivia shook her head, looking equally confused. They got their answer minutes later when they reached the hospital entrance. Parked at the curb was not a taxi or rideshare, but a sleek silver Bentley. The driver, a dignified man in his 60s, held open the rear door. Miss Patterson? He inquired. That's me, but I didn't arrange. Mr. Blackwood's compliments, the driver said. I'm Martin. I'll be taking you home today. Olivia gave Lucy a pointed look. Considerate, huh? Lucy flushed. I can't accept this. Mr. Blackwood anticipated your reluctance, Martin said, handing her an envelope. He asked me to give you this. The note inside was handwritten on thick cream stationery. Lucy, please allow Martin to drive you home. Consider it part of my ongoing atonement for vehicular assault, not a grand gesture. Your building doesn't have an elevator, and you shouldn't be carrying bags up 4 flights with a sprained arm. Martin has strict instructions to drop you off and leave unless you specifically request otherwise. No strings attached. Ethan P.S. The dinner offer stands. Your choice of venue and time. I promise not to crash into you again, though I make no guarantees about other moving vehicles. Lucy couldn't help the smile that tugged at her lips. The postscript was exactly the kind of dry humor that had characterized their text exchanges. "He's just offering a ride home," she told Olivia, showing her the note. Olivia read it, her expression unreadable. "And you're going to accept?" "My arm hurts, I'm tired, and the thought of wrestling my bags onto the subway is genuinely depressing. Right now," Lucy admitted. "So yes, I'm going to accept the comfortable car with the nice driver who doesn't expect me to carry my own things." Olivia sighed. "Fine, but I'm coming with you." The Bentley dropped them off at Lucy's walk-up in Brooklyn, Martin insisting on carrying her bags to her apartment despite her protests. Olivia left shortly after, claiming a work emergency but promising to check in later. Lucy suspected her friend was annoyed with her for accepting Ethan's gesture. Alone in her apartment, a cozy, if cluttered, one-bedroom filled with books and mismatched furniture, Lucy finally allowed herself to collapse on the sofa. Her phone chimed with a text. "Ethan." "Home safe?" Lucy typed back, "Yes, thank you for sending." Martin, "Far better than the subway." Ethan, "I should hope so. How's the arm?" Lucy, attached. "Hurts less than yesterday." Ethan, "Progress. Have you thought about dinner?" Lucy hesitated. She should say no. Every rational part of her brain was screaming that getting involved with an engaged billionaire, even for apology dinner, was a disaster waiting to happen. Lucy, still thinking. Ethan, "Fair enough. In the meantime, check the refrigerator." Frowning, Lucy pushed herself off the sofa and padded to her tiny kitchen. She opened the refrigerator to find it fully stocked with groceries she definitely hadn't purchased. Organic produce, prepared meals in glass containers, her favorite coconut water that she usually considered too expensive to buy regularly. Lucy, "Did you have my refrigerator stocked?" Ethan, "Asked Martin to arrange a grocery delivery. Doctor said you need rest. Rest is easier with food." Lucy, "This crosses a line." Ethan, "You're right. I apologize. I should have asked first. Martin can come remove everything if you prefer." Lucy stared at the message, then at her normally empty refrigerator. Her stomach growled. Lucy, "Leave the food. But next time, ask." Ethan, "Noted. There's medicine in the bag on the counter. For pain." Lucy, "Now you're just showing off." Ethan, "Guilty. Feel better, Lucy." She put down her phone, a complicated warmth spreading through her chest. No one had ever taken care of her like this, efficiently, thoughtfully, without making her feel weak for needing help. It would be so easy to let herself fall for. Her phone rang, interrupting her dangerous train of thought. Unknown number. "Hello? Is this Lucy Patterson?" A woman's crisp voice came through the line. "Speaking. This is Vanessa Reynolds, Mr. Blackwood's executive assistant. I'm calling to arrange your dinner with Mr. Blackwood." Lucy blinked. "I haven't agreed to dinner yet." "Mr. Blackwood mentioned you were hesitant," the woman said carefully. "He thought, perhaps if we handled the logistics, it might make the decision easier." "Did he?" Lucy couldn't decide if she was annoyed or amused. "He's available this Friday at 7 p.m. He suggests Lucinda's in the Village. It's small, excellent food, no paparazzi. Or if you prefer, he can arrange for a private chef at your apartment." "Definitely not my apartment," Lucy said quickly. "And I haven't said yes to dinner at all." "Of course," Vanessa said smoothly. "Mr. Blackwood understands. He simply wanted me to convey that if you decide to accept, everything will be arranged to ensure your privacy and comfort." After Lucy hung up, she sat staring at her phone. The situation was becoming surreal. 3 days ago, she'd been a nobody doctoral candidate, surviving on ramen and caffeine. Now a billionaire's assistant was arranging private dinners for her. A billionaire with a fiancé, she reminded herself. A fiancé who happened to be best friends with Olivia. As if summoned by her thoughts, Her phone chimed with a text from Olivia. Emergency drinks tonight. The Hideaway. 8 p.m. Non-negotiable. The Hideaway was a dimly lit cocktail bar in Williamsburg that had somehow escaped the notice of the hipster crowd. Lucy arrived to find Olivia already at a corner table, a martini in front of her, and an expression that suggested she'd had a day. "You look like you need that drink," Lucy observed, sliding into the seat across from her. "You have no idea," Olivia said, taking a sip. Cassandra had a meltdown today over the centerpieces for her engagement party. Apparently the peonies aren't the exact shade of blush she specified. Lucy winced. "Sounds intense." "That's Cassandra," Olivia said, a hint of something like affection in her voice. "Everything has to be perfect. It's exhausting, but also strangely admirable. She knows exactly what she wants and doesn't settle for less." A server approached, and Lucy ordered a glass of wine. When he left, she leaned forward. "Liv, why didn't you ever tell me about your friendship with her?" Olivia sighed. "Because Cassandra and I... It's complicated. We were inseparable growing up, but we've grown apart. She's become more..." She gestured vaguely. "Cassandra-like?" Lucy supplied. Olivia laughed despite herself. "Yes, and I chose a different path. Law school instead of the socialite circuit. You instead of her crowd." "Me?" "You're real, Lucy. You care about things that matter. Cassandra's world is all surface. Still, she was there for me during some dark times. And I can't just write her off." Lucy nodded, understanding the complexity of long friendships. "And now her fiancé is sending me groceries and books." Olivia's eyes sharpened. "What?" Lucy filled her in on the day's developments, watching her friend's expression grow increasingly concerned. "Lucy, this isn't just considerateness anymore. He's pursuing you. He feels guilty about the accident. Men like Ethan Blackwood don't stock virtual strangers' refrigerators out of guilt," Olivia insisted. "Trust me, I've represented enough wealthy divorcees to know the signs." "He's not divorced. He's engaged," Lucy pointed out. "To your friend." "Exactly my point," Olivia said, leaning forward. "Lucy, you need to shut this down. Cassandra won't take kindly to another woman catching Ethan's attention, especially now." "Especially now?" Olivia hesitated. "The engagement party is next week. There are already over 300 RSVPs from New York's elite. Rumor has it the governor is attending. This is practically a royal wedding in Cassandra's world." Lucy's stomach sank. Put like that, the absurdity of the situation hit her full force. What had she been thinking? That a billionaire was genuinely interested in a perpetually broke PhD candidate with ink-stained fingers and a wardrobe consisting mostly of secondhand blazers? "You're right," she said, reaching for her wine. "No more texts, no dinner. I'll donate the groceries to the food bank." Olivia looked relieved. "It's for the best, and who knows? Once your dissertation is accepted, we can find you a nice, unattached neurosurgeon or something." Lucy forced a smile, ignoring the hollow feeling in her chest. "Can't wait." Olivia's phone buzzed. She checked it, her expression changing. "It's Cassandra. She wants me to meet her at the plaza to go over seating. Charts." She looked apologetically at Lucy. "I should go. She's been so stressed lately." "Of course," Lucy said, waving her off. "Go save New York society from a seating disaster." After Olivia left, Lucy lingered over her wine, trying to ignore the notification light blinking on her phone. Finally, she checked it. "Ethan. Did Vanessa call?" "I told her not to pressure you." Lucy stared at the message, remembering Olivia's warning. She should ignore it. Block him even. Instead, her fingers moved across the screen. Yes, very efficient, very presumptuous. His reply came immediately. "That's why I pay her the big bucks." Too much? Lucy. The private chef suggestion definitely crossed into too much territory. Ethan. Noted. Just dinner at a restaurant then. Your choice. This Friday? The sensible answer was no. The only answer was no. Lucy. One dinner. This Friday. Lucinda's at 7. Just to thank you properly for the dissertation rescue. That's all. There was a pause before his response came. That's all. See you Friday. Lucy put down her phone and finished her wine, telling herself the flutter in her stomach was anxiety, not anticipation. One dinner. To thank him. To get closure on this strange interlude. And then she'd return to her normal life, where billionaires didn't send cars or stock refrigerators or look at her as if she were fascinating. It was the right decision. The only decision. So why did it feel like she was standing at the edge of a cliff, about to step off into the unknown? This is insane, Lucy muttered to her reflection. She'd changed outfits 4 times already, discarding each option for increasingly irrational reasons. Too formal, too casual, too academic, too obvious. What did one wear to an apology dinner with a billionaire who was inconveniently engaged to someone else? In the end, she settled on a simple navy dress she'd worn to academic conferences. Respectable but not trying too hard. She paired it with a vintage silver necklace that had belonged to her grandmother and the only decent pair of heels she owned. Her phone buzzed with a text from Olivia. Working late. Rain check on our movie night? Lucy typed back quickly. No problem. Catching up on research anyway. The lie made her stomach twist. She hadn't told Olivia about accepting Ethan's dinner invitation. After their conversation at the hideaway, she'd intended to cancel. But somehow the days had passed, and now it was Friday evening, and she was putting on lipstick instead of sending a polite declination. Just one dinner, she reminded herself. To thank him for saving her dissertation. To get closure. Nothing more. Her phone buzzed again. Ethan, car outside whenever you're ready. No rush. Taking a deep breath, Lucy grabbed her purse and headed downstairs. Lucinda's was exactly as Vanessa had described. Small, intimate, tucked away on a quiet village street where no one would expect to find one of New York's wealthiest men. When Lucy arrived, Ethan was already seated at a corner table, wearing a simple gray blazer over a white shirt, no tie. He looked more relaxed than she'd seen him, almost ordinary if you ignored the Patek Philippe watch and the way the staff hovered attentively. He stood when he saw her, a smile transforming his face. You came. I said I would, Lucy replied, sliding into her seat. People say a lot of things, Ethan said, retaking his seat. Especially to billionaires who've hit them with luxury vehicles. Lucy laughed despite herself. Is that a common occurrence for you? Running down pedestrians with your fleet of cars? First time, Ethan assured her, raising his water glass in a mock toast. Though I'm reconsidering my transportation choices if this is the result. The waiter appeared with a bottle of wine, pouring a taste for Ethan. He nodded his approval, and 2 glasses were filled. I took the liberty of ordering the wine, Ethan said. But everything else is your choice. Lucy took a sip. It was exquisite, probably cost more than her monthly utility bill. So, she said, setting down her glass, is this where you normally bring women you've injured in traffic accidents? Actually, I usually just have my assistant send a fruit basket, Ethan replied with perfect seriousness. You're getting the premium package. Lucky me, Lucy said dryly. And does your fiancé know about this premium package? The question landed between them like a stone, shifting the atmosphere. Ethan's smile faded. Cassandra is in the Hamptons this weekend, he said, not quite answering the question. Final fittings for her engagement party dress. That's not what I asked. Ethan met her gaze directly. No, she doesn't know I'm having dinner with you. She thinks I'm at the office, reviewing quarterly projections for the board meeting on Monday. Lucy absorbed this. So we're both lying to people we care about. That's a great start. I'm not lying to anyone I care about, Ethan said quietly, The implication hung in the air. Before Lucy could respond, the waiter returned for their orders. The moment passed, but the undercurrent remained. They ordered, and as the waiter left, Ethan leaned forward. "Tell me about your dissertation. Oncology research, right? Something about targeted delivery systems." Lucy blinked, surprised he'd paid such close attention. "Yes. I'm developing nanoparticle carriers that can deliver chemotherapy drugs directly to cancer cells, minimizing damage to healthy tissue." "And it works?" "In preliminary lab tests, yes. We're seeing up to 80% reduction in collateral cell death with similar efficacy. Rates for tumor reduction." Ethan's eyes lit with genuine interest. "That's revolutionary. Why isn't this making headlines?" "Because it's still theoretical," Lucy explained. "The cost of manufacturing these carriers at scale is prohibitive, and there are delivery challenges in vivo that we haven't solved yet." "But you will," Ethan said with certainty. "Maybe," Lucy admitted, "if I can secure funding for the next phase of research." "What would that take?" "About $2 million, give or take a few $100,000 for specialized equipment." Ethan pulled out his phone. "Who do I call to make that happen?" Lucy stared at him. "Put your phone away. You can't just throw money at my research? Because you feel guilty about hitting me with your car." "I'm not," Ethan said, looking genuinely confused. "I'm throwing money at your research because it's brilliant and could save lives. The car thing is coincidental." "Ethan." "Lucy." He countered, mimicking her tone. "I invest in promising biotech all the time. It's part of what I do." "So this is a business dinner now?" She raised an eyebrow. "No," he said with a small smile. "But it could be a business breakfast someday." The appetizers arrived, momentarily, distracting them. Lucy used the interruption to change the subject, asking about Ethan's company instead. To her surprise, he spoke candidly about the challenges of maintaining innovation while answering to shareholders, his frustrations with the board's risk aversion, and his passion for developing technologies that could make a real difference. "Most of them just want the next flashy consumer product," he said, spearing a piece of seared tuna. "But I started this company to solve problems, not create new ways for people to post selfies," says the man who put out a smartwatch that literally has a perfect selfie feature, Lucy teased. Ethan winced. "Concession to marketing, not my proudest moment." The conversation flowed easily through dinner, ranging from Lucy's research to books they'd both read, favorite obscure museums, and their shared love of classic noir films. Not once did Ethan mention Cassandra or his engagement, and Lucy found it disturbingly easy to forget those inconvenient facts as the evening progressed. Over dessert, a dark chocolate souffle they agreed to share, Ethan asked about her family. "Not much to tell," Lucy said, focusing on the souffle. "My parents were older when they had me. Dad was a physics professor, Mom was a concert pianist. They both died while I was in undergrad. No siblings." "I'm sorry," Ethan said, his voice gentle. Lucy shrugged. "It was a long time ago. They left, enough for me to finish school, and I've managed with scholarships and teaching assistantships since then." "No other family?" "My grandmother, but she passed last year." Lucy smiled faintly. "She was my biggest champion. Used to tell everyone her granddaughter was going to cure cancer someday." "Smart woman," Ethan observed. "She thought so," Lucy agreed. "What about you? I've read the Forbes profile, but I'm guessing there's more to the story than tech prodigy. Builds empire from dorm room startup." Ethan's expression shifted, becoming more guarded. "Not really. Parents divorced when I was young. Father remarried, started a new family. Mother threw herself into charity work. I was raised by a series of nannies and boarding schools until MIT." "That sounds lonely," Lucy said softly. "It was efficient," Ethan replied with practiced neutrality. "I learned self-reliance early." Lucy studied him. Despite the polished exterior, There was something vulnerable in the way he deflected personal questions, something that resonated with her own carefully constructed independence. "Is that why you're engaged to Cassandra?" she asked suddenly. "Efficiency?" Ethan's expression shuddered. "Cassandra makes sense on paper. She understands my world. She doesn't expect emotional complexity." "That sounds like a merger, not a marriage." "In my experience, there's not much difference." He attempted a smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Then why go through with it?" Lucy pressed. "Because, until recently, I thought that was all there was," Ethan said quietly. His eyes held hers across the table, unguarded for the first time. "And then I hit someone with my car." The air between them seemed to thicken. Lucy's pulse quickened. This was dangerous territory. "Ethan," she began, not sure what she was going to say. His phone buzzed on the table. Cassandra's name flashed on the screen. The moment shattered. Ethan silenced the call without looking away from Lucy. "I should take you home." The ride back to Brooklyn was quiet, a new tension pulsing between them. When the car pulled up outside her building, Ethan walked her to the door. "Thank you for dinner," Lucy said stiffly, suddenly hyper-aware of the boundaries they'd been blurring all evening. "Lucy," Ethan said, his voice low. "I know the timing is terrible. I know there are complications. But I haven't felt this way in maybe ever." "Don't," she whispered. "You're engaged to a woman who is friends with my best friend. This is a mess," he finished. "I know, but it's also real, at least for me." Before she could respond, the sound of heels clicking on the sidewalk caught their attention. Lucy turned to see Olivia approaching, her expression morphing from surprise to hurt as she registered Ethan's presence. "Liv," Lucy said, guilt flooding her. "I thought you were working late." "Clearly," Olivia said, her voice cool. "And I thought you were catching up on research." Her gaze shifted to Ethan. "Mr. Blackwood, how unexpected." "Ms. Bennett," Ethan replied evenly. "Does Cassandra know you're here?" Olivia asked directly. "That's between Cassandra and me," Ethan said, his tone hardening slightly. "Is it?" Olivia countered. "Because from where I'm standing, it seems like it's between you, Cassandra, and my best friend." Lucy stepped between them. "Liv, it was just dinner, to thank him for helping with my dissertation." Olivia's expression was skeptical. "At nearly midnight? Try again." "I should go," Ethan said, sensing the mounting tension. He turned to Lucy. "I'll call you." "Don't," Olivia interjected. "Lucy, remember what we discussed? This can only end badly." Ethan looked between them. "I think Lucy can make her own decisions." "It's fine," Lucy said quickly. "Ethan, thank you for dinner. Good night." She practically pushed Olivia into the building, avoiding Ethan's gaze. As the door closed behind them, she caught a glimpse of him standing on the sidewalk, looking utterly lost for the first time since she'd met him. Inside her apartment, Olivia rounded on her. "What were you thinking? The engagement party is next week." "It was just dinner," Lucy repeated, though the words rang hollow even to her ears. "No, it wasn't," Olivia said, her voice softening. "I saw the way he looked at you, Lucy. And worse, I saw the way you looked at him." Lucy sank onto the sofa, the weight of the evening crashing down on her. "What am I doing, Liv?" Olivia sat beside her. "You're falling for a man who's unavailable. A man who's engaged to someone I care about, complicated as that is." "Nothing happened," Lucy insisted. "We talked. That's all." "Sometimes talking is more intimate than anything physical," Olivia said wisely. "Look, I'm not judging you, but this situation is a ticking time bomb. Someone is going to get hurt." "I know," Lucy whispered. "I'll end it. Whatever it is. Olivia squeezed her hand. For what it's worth, I think he genuinely likes you. In another world. Another time. But not this one, Lucy finished. After Olivia left, Lucy kicked off her heels and curled up on the sofa, replaying the evening in her mind. Everything had felt so right, so easy with Ethan. Like finding a piece of a puzzle she hadn't known was missing. Her phone buzzed with a text. Ethan, I'm sorry about the awkward ending. I meant what I said. This feels real to me. Lucy stared at the message for a long time before finally typing, It can't be real. You know that. His response came immediately. Some things you don't choose, Lucy. They choose you. She put the phone down without answering, tears pricking at her eyes. In the morning, she'd be stronger. She'd set clear boundaries. She'd walk away. But tonight, in the quiet of her apartment, she allowed herself to imagine, just for a moment, what it might be like if the timing had been different. If they had met on a normal day, in a normal way, without fiancés and complications, and best friends with divided loyalties. It was a dangerous indulgence, but in the darkness, she permitted herself this one weakness before reality returned with the morning. Light. The Plaza Hotel's grand ballroom had been transformed into a winter wonderland for Cassandra and Ethan's engagement party. Crystal-draped chandeliers reflected light onto ice sculptures and white orchid arrangements. Manhattan's elite mingled, in couture gowns and bespoke suits, air-kissing and champagne-sipping beneath a ceiling hung with thousands of twinkling lights designed to mimic stars. I feel like I've stepped into a Disney movie, Lucy murmured to Olivia as they hovered near the entrance. One where I'm definitely not the princess. Olivia adjusted the strap of her emerald dress. Remind me again why you agreed to come. Because you said, and I quote, "If you don't come with me, I'll have to endure Cassandra's mother alone, and I might commit a society crime," Lucy replied, tugging awkwardly at her borrowed cocktail dress, a sleek black number from Olivia's. Closet that was a size too big and cinched with a hidden safety pin. The real reason was more complicated. After that dinner with Ethan a week ago, Lucy had barely slept. His texts had continued, growing increasingly direct about his feelings, until finally she'd blocked his number. Then, inexplicably, when Olivia mentioned needing moral support at the engagement party, Lucy had agreed, partly out of friendship, partly out of masochistic curiosity. She needed to see Ethan with Cassandra, to cement the reality of their relationship, in her mind once and for all. There's Cassandra, Olivia said, nodding toward the center of the room. Even in a room full of beautiful people, Cassandra Wellington stood out. Her champagne-colored gown seemed to glow from within, setting off her golden hair and porcelain skin to perfection. She was holding court among a circle of admirers, one manicured hand resting possessively on Ethan's arm. Ethan, for his part, looked impeccable in a classic tuxedo, and utterly miserable. His smile was fixed, his posture rigid. He nodded mechanically at whatever was being said, his eyes scanning the room as if looking for an escape. Then his gaze locked with Lucy's. The change was subtle but unmistakable. His entire body seemed to relax, his expression warming for a brief, unguarded moment before he caught himself. Cassandra, ever attuned to her fiancé's attention, followed his gaze. Her eyes narrowed as she spotted Olivia, and then Lucy. "Oh, God, she's seen us," Lucy whispered, fighting the urge to flee. "Act normal," Olivia hissed. "Remember, you're just my +1, a friend Cassandra barely knows." But Cassandra was already detaching herself from her admirers, pulling Ethan with her as she cut through the crowd toward them with the precision of a heat-seeking missile. "Olivia, darling!" Cassandra's voice dripped with honeyed venom as she air-kissed Olivia's cheeks. "I was beginning to think you wouldn't make it." Her eyes flicked to Lucy. "And you brought a guest." "You remember Lucy Patterson?" Olivia said smoothly. "From the hospital?" "The accident," Cassandra said, her smile tightening. Of course. How unexpected to see you here. Olivia needed a +1, Lucy explained, fighting to keep her voice steady under Ethan's intense gaze. Congratulations on your engagement. Thank you, Cassandra replied, her grip visibly tightening on Ethan's arm. We're absolutely ecstatic, aren't we, darling? Ethan cleared his throat. Ms. Patterson, good to see you recovered from your injuries. The formality in his tone was like a slap. Lucy forced a smile. All better, thanks to your generosity. The laptop was particularly helpful. Laptop? Cassandra's eyes narrowed. For my dissertation, Lucy clarified. My computer was damaged in the accident. How thoughtful of my fiancé, Cassandra said, emphasizing the last 2 words. Ethan does have a charitable streak, she turned to Olivia. Mother is looking for you, darling. Something about the Thompson Foundation Gala next month. I should go find her, Olivia said, shooting Lucy an apologetic look. I'll be right back. As Olivia walked away, an uncomfortable silence descended. Cassandra's smile remained fixed, but her eyes were calculating. So, Ms. Patterson, Olivia mentioned you're working on some sort of science degree? PhD in oncology research, Lucy replied. I'm developing targeted drug delivery systems for cancer treatment. How fascinating, Cassandra said without a hint of actual interest. Ethan has always had a soft spot for academic pursuits. Haven't you, darling? Before Ethan could answer, a distinguished older man approached. Cassandra, your father is looking for you both. The speeches are about to begin. We'll be right there, Senator, Cassandra said with a genuine smile. She turned back to Lucy. Duty calls. Do enjoy the champagne. It's Krug Grande Cuvée. Nearly $1,000 a bottle, but Ethan insisted. Nothing but the best for our guests. As she led Ethan away, he glanced back at Lucy with an expression that spoke volumes. Regret, longing, apology, before his mask slipped back into place. Left alone, Lucy grabbed a champagne flute from a passing server and took a large sip. The bubbles burned her throat, but not as much as the knot of emotion burning in her chest. Seeing Ethan with Cassandra, watching how perfectly they fit into this world of wealth and privilege, drove home the absurdity of her feelings. She didn't belong here. She never would. First time at one of these things? A voice asked beside her. Lucy turned to find a man in his early 30s, handsome in a conventional way, watching her with amusement. Is it that obvious? She asked. You have the look of someone contemplating either escape or homicide, he said with a grin. I'm voting for escape, personally. Less paperwork. Despite herself, Lucy laughed. I'm just waiting for my friend. Let me guess. You got dragged here as a +1, and now you're stranded while your friend networks with people who summer as a verb. Something like that, Lucy admitted. I'm James Harrington, he said, offering his hand. Lucy Patterson. Well, Lucy Patterson, what do you say we find something edible at the hors d'oeuvres table? I've been to enough of these to know which tiny foods are actually worth eating. Grateful for the distraction, Lucy followed him to a lavish spread where James expertly guided her through the culinary offerings. He was easy to talk to, self-deprecating about his own place in this world. Third son of a banking family, practically a spare part, and seemed genuinely interested when she mentioned her research. My sister had breast cancer last year, he said, his light tone faltering slightly. She's in remission now, but it was touch and go for a while. What you're doing could make a real difference. As they talked, Lucy found herself relaxing. James was a welcome reminder that not everyone in this world was like Cassandra, or as complicated as Ethan. Then the lights dimmed, and a spotlight illuminated a small stage where Cassandra's father stood at a microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming to celebrate the engagement of my daughter Cassandra to Ethan Blackwood. I couldn't have chosen a better match for my little girl." Lucy tuned out the predictable speech, focusing instead on Ethan and Cassandra as they joined the older man on stage. Cassandra was radiant, beaming up at her father and then at Ethan. Ethan, meanwhile, maintained his perfect smile, but his eyes kept scanning the crowd until they found Lucy again. "And now," Cassandra's father concluded, "I'd like to invite the happy couple to say a few words." Cassandra took the microphone first, delivering a polished speech about destiny and perfect matches that sounded rehearsed to Lucy's ears. Then it was Ethan's turn. He stepped forward, adjusting his cuffs, a nervous gesture Lucy had noticed during their dinner. "Thank you all for coming," he began, his voice smooth but distant. "Cassandra and I are honored by your presence." He paused, his gaze finding Lucy again in the crowd. Something shifted in his expression. "I've been thinking a lot about fate recently," he continued, his tone changing subtly, "about how life can change in an instant. One moment you're following a predetermined path, and the next..." He trailed off, his eyes never leaving Lucy's. "The next, something happens that makes you question everything you thought you knew." A murmur rippled through the crowd. This was not the speech they had expected. Cassandra's smile froze. "I've built my career on calculated decisions," Ethan went on. "On choosing the safe, logical option. The option that makes sense on paper." He looked at Cassandra then, his expression apologetic. "But I'm learning that some of the most important decisions in life can't be calculated. They have to be felt." The room had gone completely silent. Even the servers had stopped circulating. Lucy felt heat rising in her face as Ethan's gaze found hers again. "I want to thank you all for celebrating with us tonight," he said finally, seeming to remember where he was. "And I want to thank Cassandra for..." He hesitated. "For helping me understand what I truly want in life." He handed the microphone back to Cassandra's father, who looked confused, but quickly called for a toast. Glasses were raised, but the murmuring continued. Cassandra's smile had vanished entirely, replaced by a look of cold fury as she whispered something in Ethan's ear. "Well, that was uncomfortable," James commented beside Lucy. Seemed like he was talking to someone specific in the crowd. Lucy's cheeks burned. "I need some air," she muttered, heading for the terrace doors. Outside, the cool night air provided little relief from the turmoil inside her. What was Ethan doing? That speech had been dangerously close to a public declaration, and Cassandra clearly knew it. Lucy leaned against the stone balustrade, trying to steady her breathing. The terrace door opened behind her. "Lucy." She didn't need to turn to know it was Ethan. "You shouldn't be out here," she said, still facing the Manhattan skyline. "Your fiancé is probably looking for you." "I don't care," he said, moving to stand beside her. "I needed to talk to you." "About what?" Lucy finally turned to face him. "About how you just humiliated your fiancé in front of 300 guests. About how you're risking her reputation, your reputation, for..." "What, exactly?" "For you," Ethan said simply. "For us." "There is no us, Ethan. There can't be." "There could be," he insisted. "Lucy, I can't go through with this engagement. Not now, not after meeting you." Lucy stared at him, torn between hope and horror. "You can't end an engagement at the engagement party." "Why not? Is there a rule book?" "Yes, it's called basic human decency," Lucy hissed. "Do you have any idea what that would do to Cassandra?" "Cassandra will be fine," Ethan said dismissively. "She's marrying me for my name and money as much as I was marrying her for her connections. It's transactional, Lucy. It always has been. Maybe for you," Lucy countered. "But you didn't see her face during your speech." She looked devastated. Ethan ran a hand through his hair, disheveling its perfect styling. "I don't want to hurt her," But I can't pretend anymore. Not when I know what real connection feels like. He stepped closer. Tell me you don't feel it too. Tell me I'm imagining this thing between us. Lucy looked up at him, at the raw vulnerability in his eyes. It would be so easy to give in, to say yes, to let him blow up his life for the possibility of them. But the image of Cassandra's face during that speech haunted her. It doesn't matter what I feel, she said finally. This is wrong, Ethan. All of it. The timing, the circumstances. I don't care about timing or circumstances, he interrupted, taking her hands. For the first time in my life, I'm not thinking about the logical choice or the smart business move. I'm thinking about what makes me happy. And that's you, Lucy. The terrace doors burst open, and Olivia appeared, her expression frantic. Lucy, there you are. I've been looking everywhere. She stopped short at the sight of Ethan holding Lucy's hands. Oh my God. Before either could respond, another figure appeared in the doorway. Cassandra, her perfect composure shattered, stood, frozen as she took in the scene. So this is why, she said, her voice deadly quiet. This is why my fiancé has been distracted, unavailable, making speeches about fate and feelings. Her eyes fixed on Lucy with laser precision. The nobody from the accident. Cassandra, Ethan began, dropping Lucy's hands. Save it, Cassandra snapped. I knew something was wrong, but this is pathetic, Ethan. Throwing away everything for what? Some academic with a sob story about cancer research? Lucy flinched. This isn't what it looks like. Really? Cassandra's laugh was brittle. Because it looks like my fiancé is having a romantic moment on the terrace with another woman during our engagement party. Cass. Olivia stepped forward. Let's go back inside and talk about this privately. Oh, that's rich coming from you, Olivia, Cassandra said, her voice rising. My oldest friend bringing your little project to my engagement party so she can seduce my fiancé. That's enough, Ethan said sharply. This isn't Lucy's fault or Olivia's. If you want to be angry with me. Oh, I am, Cassandra assured him. But I'm also not blind. She knew exactly what she was doing. Lucy felt sick. I should go. Yes, you should, Cassandra agreed venomously. And take my friend with you. Though fair warning, Olivia has a habit of discarding friends when they no longer serve her purposes. Just ask me. Olivia recoiled as if slapped. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, darling, Cassandra said. I thought you'd have learned that by now. She turned to Ethan. As for you, I expect you back inside in exactly 3 minutes. We have guests, and I will not be humiliated further tonight. We'll discuss our situation privately. With that, she swept back inside, leaving a charged silence in her wake. Lucy, Ethan started. Don't! Lucy cut him off. Just don't. You need to go back to your guests, to your fiancé. She turned to Olivia. Can we leave? Please? Olivia nodded, her eyes bright with unshed tears. I'll call a car. As they headed for the exit, avoiding the curious stares of guests who had overheard the commotion, Lucy couldn't bring herself to look back at Ethan. She could feel his eyes on her, could almost hear the unspoken words between them. But some things, once broken, couldn't be fixed. And some lines, once crossed, left permanent scars. Tonight had proven that. Whatever might have been possible between them had just gone up in flames, taking Olivia's friendship with Cassandra as collateral damage. In the taxi heading back to Brooklyn, Olivia finally broke the silence. Cassandra was wrong, you know, about me discarding friends. Lucy squeezed her hand. I know. But she wasn't entirely wrong about me, Olivia continued, her voice small. There's history there you don't know about. You don't have to tell me. I think I do, Olivia said. if you're going to understand why tonight was even more complicated than it seemed. As the taxi crossed the bridge, with Manhattan's glittering skyline receding behind them, Olivia began to tell a story of friendship, betrayal, and secrets that cast the evening's drama in an entirely new light, and revealed that the triangle between Ethan, Cassandra, and Lucy was far more tangled than any of them had realized. 3 months after the disastrous engagement party, Lucy stood in the pristine lab that now housed her research team. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered sweeping views of the East River. State-of-the-art equipment hummed efficiently, and 4 postdoctoral researchers bent over their stations with focused intensity. A far cry from the cramped university basement, where she'd conducted her dissertation work. "Dr. Patterson?" Her assistant appeared at the door. "The board members are ready for your presentation." Lucy nodded, smoothing her blazer. A proper one now, not secondhand. "Thanks, Mark. I'll be right there." As she gathered her materials, Lucy's mind drifted, as it often did, to the seismic changes of the past months. Her dissertation had been not only accepted, but celebrated, earning her accolades in the scientific community. The Swift Medical Research Foundation had fully funded her work, $5 million, twice what she'd asked for, allowing her to assemble a dream team and secure this magnificent lab space. And all because Olivia had made a phone call to her ex-boyfriend, James Harrington Sr., chairman of the Swift Foundation and father of the charming man Lucy had met at the engagement party. The engagement party. Even now, the memory made her stomach clench. "Don't overthink the presentation," came a familiar voice behind her. "The results speak for themselves." Lucy turned to find James Harrington Jr. leaning against the doorframe, boyishly handsome in a conservative suit. After that night, he'd asked her to coffee, then dinner, and gradually they'd fallen into an easy companionship that was slowly evolving into something more. "Easy for you to say," Lucy replied with a smile. "It's not your research being scrutinized." "True," James conceded. "But I do have to endure my father's opinions on my dating choices, which is arguably worse." "And what opinion would that be?" Lucy asked, arching an eyebrow. "That I've finally shown good judgment, apparently." James stepped forward, straightening her already straight collar. "Ready for your scientific triumph?" Lucy nodded, grateful for his steadying presence. James was uncomplicated, genuine, supportive in exactly the ways she needed. The opposite of... "Did you see the news about Blackwood Innovations?" James asked, interrupting her thoughts. Lucy's heart skipped a beat at the name she'd been trying not to think about. "No, what news?" "Ethan Blackwood stepped down as CEO," James said. "Announced it yesterday. The business channels are going crazy with speculation." Lucy froze. "Stepped down? Why?" James shrugged. "Press release said he wants to focus on their medical technology division. Something about meaningful innovations that improve lives." Stock dropped 15%. Before Lucy could process this information, her phone chimed with a text from Olivia. "Have you seen the news? Call me ASAP." "I should get to the boardroom," Lucy said, pushing the news, and its possible implications, firmly from her mind. "Wish me luck." James squeezed her hand. "You don't need luck. You've got science." The presentation was a resounding success. The preliminary trials of Lucy's nanoparticle delivery system had exceeded even her optimistic projections. The board voted unanimously to triple the funding for Phase 2 trials, and the timeline for FDA approval was moved up by a full year. By the time Lucy returned to her office, she had congratulatory messages from colleagues around the world and a delivery of champagne from James. But the one message that caught her eye was another text from Olivia. "Meet me at the Hideaway at 7. Important." The Hideaway was quieter than usual when Lucy arrived that evening. She spotted Olivia in their regular corner booth, already nursing a martini. "That kind of day?" Lucy asked, sliding in across from her. "That kind of quarter," Olivia replied with a tired smile. In the aftermath of the engagement party, Olivia had thrown herself into her legal career with renewed focus, making partner 6 weeks ago. "Congratulations on the presentation," Olivia continued, raising her glass. "James says you blew the board away." "You two talk about me behind my back?" Lucy asked, signaling for a glass of wine. "Someone has to," Olivia said dryly. "You're too busy saving lives to worry about your social calendar." It was an old joke between them now, but one that carried a grain of truth. Lucy had immersed herself in work these past months, using her research as a shield against thoughts of Ethan Blackwood and what might have been. "I assume you called me here to discuss the news about Ethan," Lucy said, cutting to the chase. Olivia nodded. "And about Cassandra." "What about Cassandra?" Lucy asked carefully. After the engagement party, Cassandra had disappeared from public view, canceling her charity appearances and social obligations. The engagement had been officially called off 2 weeks later, with a terse statement citing irreconcilable differences. "She's back in New York," Olivia said. "And she wants to see you." Lucy nearly choked on her wine. "Me? Why would she possibly want to see me?" "Because she has information you need to hear," came a voice from behind her. Lucy turned to find Cassandra Wellington standing at their table. Gone was the society princess with perfect hair and killer heels. This Cassandra wore simple jeans, a cream sweater, and minimal makeup. She looked younger, softer somehow, but no less intimidating. "May I?" Cassandra gestured to the empty space beside Olivia. Too stunned to object, Lucy nodded. Cassandra slid into the booth with practiced grace. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," Cassandra said to Lucy. "Though I see Olivia employed her usual tactic of ambush rather than advance warning." "It worked, didn't it?" Olivia replied with a hint of their old familiarity. The server appeared, and Cassandra ordered a sparkling water, another surprise. When they were alone again, she fixed her clear blue eyes on Lucy. "I owe you an apology," she said simply. Lucy blinked. "You... what?" "I behaved abominably at the engagement party," Cassandra continued. "I was hurt and humiliated, and I lashed out at you when you weren't the one who deserved my anger." "I appreciate that," Lucy said cautiously. "But I think we both know I wasn't entirely innocent." "Perhaps not," Cassandra agreed, "but you at least had the decency to feel guilty about it, unlike some people." The old flint briefly flashed in her eyes before disappearing. "I thought you should know that Ethan and I had problems long before you entered the picture," Cassandra continued. "Our engagement was strategic from the beginning. His technology, my family's connections, a marriage of convenience disguised as a love match." "Why are you telling me this?" Lucy asked. Cassandra exchanged a look with Olivia, some silent communication passing between them. "Because Ethan is selling his company," she said, "or rather restructuring it. He's keeping control of the medical technology division and selling off the consumer products side." "I heard he stepped down as CEO," Lucy said. "But selling? That company is his life's work." "Apparently his priorities have changed," Cassandra said with a pointed look. A heavy silence fell over the table. Lucy felt a familiar tightness in her chest, the same feeling she'd had watching Ethan on that stage 3 months ago, speaking words meant only for her. "There's one more thing you should know," Olivia interjected gently. "About Cassandra and me." "Liv, you don't have to," Cassandra began. "She deserves the whole truth," Olivia insisted. She turned to Lucy. "Remember how I said there was history between Cassandra and me? Well, we were more than friends in college. We were together. A couple." Lucy's eyes widened. "You and Cassandra?" "For 3 years," Cassandra confirmed, "until my father discovered us. He threatened to cut me off, to ruin Olivia's chances at law school." "So we ended it," Olivia continued. "Cassandra did what was expected. dated appropriate men, maintained her social standing. I threw myself into building my career. But we never quite got over each other, Cassandra said softly. When my father started pushing me toward Ethan, it seemed like the perfect solution. A man too busy with his company to demand much from. A wife, wealth and status enough to satisfy my father, and perhaps eventually, freedom to live as I chose. Then I hit you with his car, Lucy said, pieces falling into place. And he fell for you instead. Cassandra nodded. The irony wasn't lost on me. After the engagement ended, I went to Switzerland for a while. Did some thinking, some growing. Realized I was tired of living for my father's approval. She glanced at Olivia. And I've decided it's time to live authentically. The look that passed between Olivia and Cassandra told Lucy everything she needed to know. You two are back together, she said. It wasn't a question. We're trying, Olivia admitted. It's complicated, but it's honest, Cassandra finished. For the first time in a long time. Lucy sat back, processing this revelation. So if you're with Olivia, and you're not angry with me anymore, then why did you want to see me? Because Ethan is selling his company for you, Cassandra said bluntly. He's restructuring his entire life, walking away from billions in potential value, all so he can head the medical division that's launching a partnership with, I believe the press release said, a groundbreaking oncology research team. Lucy felt the blood drain from her face. My research team. The board meeting today, Olivia added gently. It wasn't just about additional funding. It was about approving the partnership with Blackwood Medical Technologies. But I had no idea, Lucy stammered. Of course you didn't, Cassandra said. Ethan arranged it all behind the scenes, through intermediaries. He knew you'd never accept his help directly. A reluctant admiration colored her tone. He's been surprisingly thoughtful about the whole thing. Lucy's mind raced. Ethan had reoriented his entire company, his life's work, to align with her research, without taking credit, without even letting her know. There's one more thing, Olivia said, reaching into her bag. She produced an envelope and handed it to Lucy. He asked me to give you this if the board approved the partnership. Lucy stared at the envelope, her name written in the now familiar, strong handwriting. I'm seeing James, she said, as if that were a reason not to open it. James is wonderful, Cassandra said unexpectedly. Solid, dependable, kind, everything a woman should want. But not what you wanted, Lucy pointed out. No, Cassandra admitted, but then I had my own complications. She nodded at the envelope. Aren't you curious? Lucy was beyond curious. She was terrified, because despite James, despite the months of silence, despite everything rational and sensible, her heart still skipped whenever she heard Ethan's name. And that was dangerous. I should go, she said, standing abruptly. Thank you for clearing things up. She took the envelope, tucking it into her purse unopened. Lucy, Olivia called as she headed for the door. Don't overthink this. Outside, in the cool evening air, Lucy hailed a taxi. She gave her address mechanically, then sat back, the unopened envelope burning a hole in her purse. The city lights blurred past, each one a memory of that dinner with Ethan, the way he'd looked at her, the feeling that for once in her life, someone truly saw her. By the time she reached her apartment, a new one, with working heat and an actual view, she'd made her decision. She would read the letter, maintain the professional connection between their organizations for the sake of the research, and continue moving forward with James. The safe choice. The logical choice. The choice that made sense on paper. She almost laughed at the irony of echoing Ethan's words from the engagement party. As she unlocked her door, she finally pulled out the envelope, tearing it open with trembling fingers. Inside was a single sheet of paper with just a few lines. Lucy, congratulations on the partnership. Your research will change millions of lives, including mine, though not in the way you might think. I told you once that some things we don't choose. They choose us. I still believe that, but I also believe in respecting choices others have made. If you're reading this, it means you've moved on, as you should have. I just wanted you to know that the accident that brought you into my life was the best wrong turn I ever took. EPS. I'll be at the place where we had dinner this Friday at 7. One last time, for closure. If you don't come, I'll understand. Lucy sank onto her sofa, reading the letter again and again. The simplicity of it, the lack of pressure or grand declarations, was so perfectly Ethan. He'd given her space, respected her choices, even while completely reorganizing his life's work to support her research from the shadows. And James? James was perfect on paper. Handsome, kind, well-connected, interested in her work. Any sensible woman would be grateful for such a match. But when had love ever been sensible? Friday evening found Lucy standing outside Lucinda's in the village, wavering between entering and fleeing. She'd called James that morning, had the difficult but necessary conversation. He'd been disappointed but not surprised, confessing he'd always sensed she was holding part of herself back. Still, crossing this threshold felt momentous, irrevocable. What if Ethan had changed? What if she had? What if the connection they'd felt had been nothing more than the heightened emotion of forbidden attraction? As she stood paralyzed with doubt, a familiar voice spoke behind her. You know, it's customary to actually enter the restaurant. Lucy turned to find Ethan watching her with that half smile that made her heart flip. He looked different, more relaxed in jeans and a simple blue shirt, his hair slightly longer, the weight of the corporate world visibly lifted from his shoulders. I was debating, Lucy admitted, about whether to have the coq au vin or the bouillabaisse, Ethan asked lightly, though his eyes were serious. About whether some missed turns can be retraced, Lucy replied. Ethan's smile softened. I'd like to think it's never too late to find the right path. Even when the navigators took some serious detours? Especially then, Ethan said, stepping closer. The scenic route often has the best views. Lucy laughed despite herself. That was terrible. I know, Ethan agreed, grinning. I'm a tech guy, not a poet, but I'm learning to be more unscripted. I heard about the company, Lucy said. You didn't have to do that. I didn't do it for you, Ethan replied. Well, not entirely. I did it for me too. For the first time, I'm building something that matters, something beyond the next shiny gadget. He paused. Though I won't deny the prospect of working with a certain brilliant researcher was a powerful incentive. Lucy felt a blush rising. That researcher has some strict ethical guidelines about mixing business and pleasure. Understandable. Ethan nodded seriously. Though I should mention I've technically recused myself from direct oversight of the partnership. The board handles all official interactions. You've thought of everything, Lucy said, impressed despite herself. Not everything, Ethan admitted. I didn't predict James Harrington, for instance. Lucy took a deep breath. James and I had a talk this morning. We're not seeing each other anymore. Ethan's expression shifted, hope warming his features. I'm sorry. For him, I mean. Not for me. I'm decidedly not sorry for me. I gathered that, Lucy said dryly. They stood looking at each other, months of separation and longing suspended between them like gossamer threads. Well, Ethan said finally, would you like to have dinner? As colleagues? Or friends? Or... He left the last possibility unspoken, a question mark hovering in the space between them. Lucy pretended to consider. I don't know. The last time we had dinner here, things got complicated. They were complicated long before that dinner, Ethan pointed out. At least since I hit you with my car." "True," Lucy conceded. "You do owe me for emotional distress." "I believe the legal term is pain and suffering," Ethan said, stepping closer still. "Though I'm hoping to balance the scales with a lifetime of the opposite." Lucy's breath caught. "That's a pretty ambitious settlement offer." "I've always been ambitious," Ethan said softly. "But I've learned that some things are worth more than ambition. Some things are worth changing your entire life for." And there in the middle of the sidewalk, with New Yorkers streaming past and the first stars appearing in the twilight sky, Lucy reached up and pulled Ethan into a kiss that felt like coming home and embarking on an adventure all at once. When they finally parted, both breathless and smiling, Ethan traced her cheek with gentle fingers. "So, dinner?" Lucy laughed, feeling lighter than she had in months. "Dinner, and maybe breakfast." "Breakfast too?" Ethan's eyebrows rose. "That's very forward, Dr. Patterson. I'm not talking about tomorrow's breakfast," Lucy clarified with deliberate primness. "I was thinking about breakfast in general, as a concept, for the future." "Ah, the future," Ethan nodded solemnly. "I happen to be very interested in that particular concept." As they entered the restaurant hand in hand, Lucy reflected on the strange, twisted path that had led them here. A car accident, a spilled dissertation, an engagement party disaster, and finally, a partnership that went far beyond business. Sometimes life's worst wrong turns led exactly where you were meant to be all along. 1 year later, "Is the blindfold really necessary?" Lucy asked, as Ethan guided her carefully along what felt like a hallway. "Absolutely," Ethan assured her. "The full impact requires the element of surprise." After a few more steps, they came to a stop. Lucy heard a door open, felt a change in the air. "Ready?" Ethan asked, his voice warm with anticipation. "As I'll ever be," Lucy replied. The blindfold came off, and Lucy blinked in the sudden brightness. She was standing in a lab, but not just any lab. It was enormous, at least 3 times the size of her current facility, with equipment she'd only dreamed of and workstations for what must be 20 researchers. "What is this?" she breathed. "The new Patterson-Blackwood Institute for Targeted Therapeutics," Ethan said proudly. "Opening next month, pending the director's approval." Lucy turned to him in shock. "Director?" "Well, we couldn't exactly call it the Patterson Institute without giving you the keys to the kingdom," Ethan replied. "The board approved it unanimously yesterday. Full research autonomy, all the funding you need, and a staff of 30 top scientists from around the world." Lucy's eyes filled with tears as she took in the lab again. Her lab. "This is overwhelming." "There's more," Ethan said, leading her to the window. Outside stretched a complex of modern buildings nestled into a wooded hillside. "The full campus," Ethan explained. "Research facilities, administrative offices, housing for visiting scientists, and," he pointed to a smaller building set apart from the others, "a residence for the director, and her partner, if she's so inclined." Lucy turned to him, finding him on one knee, a small velvet box in his hand. "Ethan," she whispered. "Lucy Patterson," he said, his voice steady but his eyes betraying his nervousness. "You changed my life when I hit you with my car. Would you consider changing your name too, and marrying me?" The ring inside the box was not a massive diamond, as she might have expected from a billionaire, but a simple, elegant sapphire surrounded by smaller stones. "It's the color of the dress you were wearing when we met," Ethan explained. "Well, when I hit you. Our meet-cute needs work, I admit." Lucy laughed through her tears. "You remember what I was wearing?" "I remember everything about that day," Ethan said seriously. "It was the day my life finally started making sense." Lucy pulled him to his feet. "Yes," she said simply. "Yes to the Institute, yes to the directorship, yes to changing my name, though I'm keeping Patterson professionally. and yes to marrying you." As they sealed the agreement with a kiss, Lucy's phone chimed with a text. She checked it later, to find a message from Olivia. "Cassandra and I just got engaged too." "Dual wedding?" "Kidding. Mostly. Call me." Life had a funny way of coming full circle sometimes. One errant turn of a steering wheel had set in motion a chain of events that had changed 4 lives forever. Lucy couldn't help but think her mathematician father would have appreciated the elegant symmetry of it all. And as Ethan led her through her new institute, already planning expansions and collaborations, Lucy silently thanked whatever twist of fate had put her at that corner, on that day, in the path of an Aston Martin, driven by a billionaire who had been as lost as she was found. Some accidents, it turned out, were nothing short of miraculous.